Okay, so continuing where we left off yesterday, what we're going to do now is apply the process to a different section of the multiple choice part, in this case, the reading part. The process, like I told you guys, does not necessarily change. The biggest difference is you're going to have to do actually a little bit more reading here because it's comprehension. So you may need more than 1 or 2 sentences to get the gist of what's being said in order to effectively answer the question. Does that make sense? All right, so as an example, we'll take a look at number 20 on the 2017 STAAR. It says the author uses similes at the end of paragraph 3 to highlight. Now, part of answering these questions is understanding what the question, the biggest part is understanding what's being asked of you, right? So obviously, before we can even think about answering the question, we got to make sure we know what similes are. Do we know what similes are? Comparing two things using like or as, right? So now, without trying to get too deep, why would you want to compare something? To show how things are similar. Does the name similar, right? All right, so keeping that in mind, we'll take a quick look at what the answers are, and then we'll go back to the paragraph. Now, this is what we call, again, paragraph specific, because it specifically points to paragraph 3. Now, when we were doing the revising and editing part, it would only point to 1 or 2 sentences, right? Or 1 sentence. So, or sometimes it wouldn't point to any sentence. So you're starting to see that you're going to be asked to read a little bit more. But again, you notice we have yet to read an entire passage as we go through this, okay? We just read 1 or 2 sentences, and now that's increased to a whole paragraph. But that's it. We haven't sat down and read an entire passage yet, right? Which is the point of the whole strategy. So the author's trying to highlight something. It's either that common things can be taken for granted, the various ways that language affects people, the impact of childhood memories on learning, and how children's books affect the author. All right, so now let's take a look at paragraph 3 in the first passage. All these years later, after making more than 20 books of my own, I still feel the miraculous power in language, whether written or spoken, the same power I felt when I sang a train into motion and I learned the name of Snape and Sandra taught me the alphabet on the screen porch of our farmhouse in Memphis. How extraordinary that a few sounds or a few squiggles can rouse up people, voices and landscapes in our minds. Like sunshine, like the urgency of spring, like bread, language is so familiar that we easily forget what an amazing gift it is. All right, so as you process that, let's take a look at the question again, question 20. The author uses similes at the end of paragraph 3 to highlight what? What can we automatically get rid of? What can we eliminate? Huh? J? Why? Okay, so we can eliminate J, right? What else can we eliminate? H? You mean the author didn't talk about the impact of childhood memories on learning? That wasn't mentioned in the paragraph? I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm asking why you're eliminating. Did the author talk about the impact of memories on learning? Huh? No. No, we didn't. The author did not talk about that. So you can eliminate that. So that leaves us with F and G. Hmm? Mm-hmm. And also look at what he said. Look at what the author says at the end of the paragraph, right? Look at the last couple of lines. So with that being said, what do we feel like the answer is to number 20? Raise your hand if you think it's F. Raise your hand if you think it's G. The correct answer to number 20 is F. So again, you're starting to see the process. Again, it looks like there's a lot of things to do, but it really isn't, right? And again, we have yet to read an entire passage. So far, we've only read 2 paragraphs. but we have gotten the right answer both times. So when you just carefully consider what you're being asked, it's a lot easier to go into that passage and find that specific information, right? And then using process of elimination, the answer that best fits the criteria of the question, especially given what you have from the paragraph, you're going to get the answer more times than not. All right, we'll try one more. Okay, how does paragraph 6 contribute to the author's message? So, this is another paragraph specific question, right? Another paragraph specific question. So, let's take a look at paragraph 6. Libraries have become, of course, much more than houses for books. They've become knots in the global web of information. However, in this age of new devices for storing and transmitting knowledge, from videotapes to CD-ROMs, from television, to the internet, I'm still devoted to the humble book. A book requires no electricity. It is portable, made for the hand and pocket. It invites, but does not demand our attention. And it leaves us time to think. We can enter or leave a book just as we choose. And we can interrupt our reading to burp a baby, or pay a bill, or ponder a cloud. A good book appeals to what is best in us without trying to sell us anything. Books may become dated, of course, yet never because of some shift in technology or because their parts wear out. And the best of them are more durable than any manufactured product. Very beautiful prose there. I like that. So, looking at question 21, how does paragraph 6 contribute to the author's message? What can we automatically eliminate? Okay, so we can get rid of D, you said? Because nowhere in the paragraph does it talk about what the best source of knowledge or the internet, whether it's internet or library. So we can get rid of D. I heard somebody say A. It represents his argument for replacing libraries with modern technology. So that leaves us with B and C. So based on that, what do we think the answer is? C? The correct answer for 21 is C. No. But again, that took us less than what? A minute? From dissecting what the question was asking us, to going back to reading that one paragraph, to then answering the question with process elimination. That took us about a minute and change. Right. So again, what you're seeing and what you're reaffirming is that applied correctly and wholeheartedly, the strategy works. You're not overthinking anything. You're not necessarily getting deep into analysis in terms of what the questions are asking. The hardest part of this strategy, is simply determining, to me, what the question is asking you for. Once you really determine what the question is asking you for, you know exactly what to look for in the sentence or the paragraph to answer that question. And if you remember, go back to that numbers game we talked about, with 75-25, that determination makes it easier for you to quickly eliminate what's wrong. And in the three questions that we talked about, 19, 20, and 21, you've gotten it correct every time. So now if you just apply that over the course of the entire test, I see no reason why you shouldn't blow it out the water. Does that make sense? All right. I'm feeling snazzy today, so let's try one more. 22. What is the author's tone in this essay? Now, what is this a question asking you without asking you? Huh? No. This is a deeper thing, right? Sometimes, even though a question may ask you something on the surface, it's also asking you something behind that. It's implying that you should, huh? Not how you feel reading it, how the passage makes you feel, kind of. But typically, in this case, this question is asking you, do you know what tone is? And I'm glad you said that. What is tone? Say that again. I wouldn't say the emotions, right? Remember, we talked about tone versus mood, right? Tone is the author's feeling towards the subject. Remember that little quote that I gave you guys? Your tone is affecting my mood. Huh? Yeah, remember when we were doing the novel study, right? And I said, your tone is affecting my mood. The tone is about the author. The mood is about how we feel. Does that make sense? Right? So knowing what tone is vitally important to answering a question like this. Because if you're confused about what tone is, you can't possibly, or not can't possibly, but it's more difficult for you to get that from the essay. So now that we know what tone is, and this is what we would call a question specific one, right? Because we've read enough in the 2 paragraphs, we've read enough of the essay to get a good idea of what the author's tone is. So, based on what we have read so far, what can we automatically eliminate? Huh? J and H? Go ahead. G? You think the answer is G? Raise your hand if you think it's G. Think it's G? Well, what I can tell you, the answer to number 22 on the 2017 STAAR is G. But you can tell that the author is very passionate about their love of books, right? Well, because of the amount of emotion, right? But how many paragraphs did we read to get that? 2. You didn't have to read the whole passage to see that, right? So now when you get this question, again, the key to this question is knowing what tone is, right? Even though the question did not specifically say what is tone, if you don't know what tone is, you're gonna have a hard time answering this question. Does that make sense? And you will get questions like that with an implied, there's a secondary question, an implied understanding. Do you know what tone is, right? If you know what tone is, then this question is easy. But if you don't know what it is, or you've forgotten, or it's hard for you to remember, you're gonna have, because now you're asking yourself, what is tone? Not what that is. But because you know what tone is, those 2 paragraphs, easily able to answer the question. So that's 4 out of 4, ladies and gentlemen. Did you know that? You got 4 out of 4 correct. Huh? You said this is fun? Okay. Now, let's take a look here. Now, I've stressed the importance of reading directions, okay? So use the low-tech appeal of little free libraries to answer questions 26 through 33. Then fill in the answers on your answer document. Now, I'm going to point to a question here in paragraph 12. So that's obviously what? Paragraph specific, right? People who act in altruistic ways are. Right. People who act in altruistic ways. So let's go to paragraph 12. Okay. Individual stewards are using their little free libraries in altruistic ways too. Tina Sapula, Claire House, a food pantry in Bloomington, Illinois, does more than distribute groceries. She distributes books via an on-site little free library. As she points out, homeless people don't have addresses, which means they can't get public library cards. Linda Prout was instrumental in bringing dozens of little free libraries to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. And Lisa Heideloff of Bihar, India, is working to bring 1,000 little free libraries to girls' schools in her country, filling them with books that teach business and entrepreneurial skills. So, there's a couple of different ways you can attack a question like this, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. We're on question, what, 26? All right. There's a couple of different ways you can attack this, right? Remember, part of our strategy is a dictionary. Does that make sense? So, without ever having to go back into the paragraph, what are they asking you for? They ask you what the word means. They're testing your vocabulary skills, okay? However, context clues from the paragraph can also give you an indication of the word's definition. In this case, based on the way the word was used in the paragraph, what can we automatically eliminate? F and J? J and H? Okay, so we can eliminate J, right? And you said H, so that leaves us with F and G. So again, based on the way it was used in the paragraph, what do you think the answer is? Raise your hand if you think it's F. Raise your hand if you think it's G. Yeah, you said eliminate. You said eliminate F? Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you the answer to number 26 is F. F, I mean, altruistic really means just that I mean what I say. Like, there's no ulterior motive behind what I'm doing. Like, I'm doing this for other people, not for myself, right? So that's a good job. Now, again, utilizing this strategy, we've done, what, 4 questions, 5 questions? And you've gotten all of them correct. On an actual STAAR exam, albeit 2017. This is an actual STAAR exam. It's not something that I made up. This. I told you guys, the current crop of seniors, this is the STAAR exam they took as 9th grade. And you've gotten 4 for 4 so far. Just saying. All right, want to try one more? Okay. Okay, let's look at number 27. By discussing the various people who use little free libraries, the author. So, what kind of question is this? Is it paragraph specific? Is it question specific? Okay, so let's take a look at the question before we go looking into the paragraph. Because right now, based on the paragraph, based on the question, we don't necessarily have a specific direction to go in the text. So let's. Yeah, I think you could just go off the paragraph that you just read in order to answer this question. So based on that, based on what we've read so far, what can we automatically eliminate? C and B? B? Okay, so if we get rid of C and B, that leaves us with A and D. And based on what we have read so far, raise your hand if you think it's A. Raise your hand if you think it's D. Correct answer for number 27 is A. Mind-blowing, isn't it? Okay, so Let's try one more for the sake of the camera, right? Number 28. In cultures around the world, little free libraries are, if you want to, G? Right. So raise your hand if you think it's G. Consensus, huh? Okay. The correct answer for 28 is G. So what you're seeing, ladies and gentlemen, right? What you're seeing, now we've done what, 6 questions? 6, 7 questions? In less than 10 minutes? We have yet to read an entire passage. The most you've read is what, 1 to 2 paragraphs? 1 paragraph, like in terms of at one time, you've read 1 paragraph at a time. You're 6 for 6. You haven't read an entire passage. So it varies. I would expect anywhere from 42 to about 50 to 52 questions. Right? But you're 6 for 6 right now in less than 10 minutes. I'm not advocating doing that. I want you guys to be as thorough as possible. But yeah, like that's the thing. Like you're not, remember I told you guys about the use of your concentration, right? You have 5 hours. Okay, you have 5 hours. You have anywhere from 42 to 52 questions. You also have an essay you need to write. Spending a bunch of time over analyzing is going to be detrimental over the course of the test. Does that make sense? However, as you have seen, utilizing this strategy, you're able to nonetheless get the right answer while still maintaining a high level of focus, because you're not boring yourselves to death trying to read every word of every passage. Because as you can see, when you just commit to the process, you don't have to read the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So as you've seen, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to do that at all, okay? So we'll go ahead and start recording right there. We will pick this up tomorrow, where we talk about the remainder of the test. We'll go through more questions tomorrow as it pertains to implementing the strategy, just to give you guys an overall feel across multiple questions. Like 6 questions is great, but we obviously need to go a little further than that, because you're going to get more than 6 questions, and I want you to see all the question types, because we haven't seen questions that ask about summarization. Matter of fact, let's see. Okay, here's one. Let's take a look at 29 before we sign off, right? This is an inference question, okay? From paragraph 14, the reader can infer that the author, so now this is what we call what? What kind of question is it? Paragraph specific. So let's take a look at question 14, or excuse me, paragraph 14. Okay. Though they owe their spread largely to the internet, little free libraries often serve as an antidote to a world of Kindle downloads and data-driven algorithms. The little wooden boxes are refreshingly physical and human. When you open the door, serendipity and your neighbor's taste dictates what you'll find. The selection of 20 or so books could contain a Russian novel, a motorcycle repair manual, a Scandinavian cookbook, or a field guide to birds. Now, I'm going to ask you guys a question. Who knows what serendipity is? Bliss? Anybody else? Using context clues, what do you think it means? A variety? When you open the door, serendipity and your neighbor's taste dictates what you'll find. I wouldn't say preference. Serendipity means chance, right? Like something that can't really be predicted. So when you're talking about, it says when you open the door, serendipity dictates what you'll find. Like it could be luck of the draw. That makes sense? Because if you look at the sentences after that, the selection of 20 or so books could contain a Russian novel, a motorcycle repair manual, a Scandinavian cookbook, or a field guide to birds. Like you don't know what you're gonna get. Think Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. I'm not a smart man, Jenny, but I know what love is. You didn't see Forrest Gump? Jenny. What are you doing, Jenny? All right, so now that we have read paragraph 14, let's take a look at the question. Which one was it? No, that wasn't it. What was it? 29, right? So based on what we have read in paragraph 14, what can we eliminate? D? D and C, okay. Thinks ebooks fail to offer. Yep, because there was no mention of ebooks, right? Understands the limitations. Okay, so that leaves us with A and B. So based on what we read in the paragraph, what's the best inference? Raise your hand if you think it's A. B. The answer to question 29 is B. That easy to see? Absolutely. It makes my heart smile. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and stop the video right there. But just to before I stop it, again, the process, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, it works and it's effective. And it's not based on questions that I made up. This is an actual STAAR exam, and you see that it clearly works. The questions that you're seeing on this STAAR exam, even though it was 2017, you will see similar questions when you take this test on April 5th. Obviously, it'll be different passages, and you'll be asked slightly different things, but you'll be asked inference questions. You'll be asked vocabulary definition questions. You'll be asked, let's see, this question. Again, you'll get similar questions on April 6th. So you don't have to change anything in terms of your strategy implementation because it's 2021 versus 2017. That makes sense? So again, today was about the reaffirmation that the strategy is effective and efficient. And you guys are right now 100%. We've answered 7, 8 questions, and you're at 100% right now. So that's always a good thing.